Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. Isis, Escape from Transylvania. The goddess next door and John Haynes must escape a horde of vampires on the hunt in this horror-filled Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Escape from Transylvania in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. I don't know what the people at Marvel Comics are smoking. All I know is I don't want any of it. Recently, Marvel Comics announced that they were going to give Riri Williams' Ironheart her own limited series. And this is one of the most mind-boggling decisions I've ever seen from a publisher's perspective. Usually, a character gets their own series once they have proven that they can get the sales like a Wolverine did over the years, and that's what led to him getting his own solo book, because Wolverine was one of the most popular X-Men, and he proved that he could carry himself in a limited series. And then in 1988, the decision was made to give Wolverine his first ongoing series. Same thing with your Tim Drake Robin. Your Tim Drake Robin was introduced in Batman. He became very popular in Batman comics. They then gave him 3 limited series, and then after the success of the 3 limited series, your Tim Drake Robin graduated to his own solo book. And the reason why those characters earned those solo books was because they proved they had an established audience, and they proved that there was a following of readers who would go out here and buy their books on the regular. Now, your Riri Williams doesn't have any of that following. No, your Riri Williams, ever since she made her first appearance during that horrific Brian Michael Bendis Iron Man run, has been one of the most reviled characters in all of comics. And the reason why the character is reviled is because the character is a Mary Sue for Brian Michael Bendis and an avatar for his adopted black daughter. So the Ironheart character is a lot of flash, but she has absolutely no substance at the core of her foundation, and overall the structure of the character is one that is extremely poor. So that's one of the reasons why I find it to be a completely mind-boggling reason to greenlight this character for her own limited series or any sort of series, because the character has proven that she could not carry the Iron Man book under Brian Michael Bendis, because under the Brian Michael Bendis era of Riri Williams and the Iron Man armor, we saw sales drop to all-time lows, where we saw the book at 9,000 orders or 7,000 orders, and Iron Man, the character, has been an all-time high in terms of popularity, thanks to his portrayal by Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man movies and Avengers movies. But this book is now at an all-time low because of this Riri Williams character, and most people only buy Iron Man, like Diversity in Comics do, to rip it and roast it. They don't buy it to read it and collect it. So again, I look at this decision, and this is one of the most mind-bogglingly stupid decisions I've ever seen come out of the C.B. Cebulski era of Marvel. In fact, it seems like an indignant one, because it seems like instead of him listening to comic fans and just removing this character and letting them fall into obscurity, he's going to double down and try to force people to continue reading the adventures of this shoehorned, forced diversity character. And that's something that just shows me he doesn't really care about Marvel as a brand, nor does he care about Marvel from a publisher's perspective, because any smart publisher understands that resources for a publisher's budget are limited, and they don't want to risk their budget on a book they know isn't going to sell, because this is a book that is just not going to sell outside of guys like Diversity in Comics and Yellow Fash buying it to rip it and roast it, because we know that this book is going to be certified terrible, because the character has no mission as a hero, the character has no substance as a hero, and the new writer they're bringing on is not someone who has the seasoning or experience to even do anything with such a poorly crafted character. Now, Marvel decided to bring in a new writer, Eve Ewing, a black woman who has absolutely no writing experience in comics, and the only thing that she has that's a qualification is one, she's a black woman, and two, she kind of looks like Riri Williams. So she's basically Mary suing herself in this Riri Williams character, and we're not seeing any sort of craft as related to storytelling from this woman. This woman, she does not have as many publishing credits as even I have, and she's going to be writing this Ironheart book. Again, I look at that decision from C.B. Cebulski, and it shows me that he's not really thinking about selling comics or reaching new readers. He's thinking about pushing a social justice identity politics agenda where he's going to try to shoehorn and force this character on an audience that has already shown that it has no interest in this character. Because I look at this character, and from a creative standpoint, there's nothing substantive there for any creator to work with. Now, this woman, she wrote an article online saying she could do something with this character, but I sit there and I look at her background, and I said, you don't really know anything about fiction. You don't have the fiction or the publishing credits. I mean, if you're going to come into comics, you really have to have a good background in science fiction. You have to have a background in fantasy. And most of all, you have to have a background in comics. And you have to have had read some comics in order to understand how the story model works, how the story paradigm works, and how to make characters develop in the medium. This woman has none of that experience, and I look at her qualifications, and outside of being a black woman who came out, wrote this article on Twitter, there's not much there. And the only reason why they're giving her this book is because they want to get press from many of these black media outlets and saying that a black woman is writing this black character, Ironheart. But again, her qualifications don't match outside of being a black woman who looks something like Riri Williams. I've been writing fantasy for almost 20 years, and I have the background to write a character like this, and I've been writing fantasy, again, for 20 years. I've read comics for over 30 years, yet your Marvel will sit there and they'll go out and hire this female over a guy like me. But that's how Marvel is running right now under Cebulski, because he's all about forced diversity, not going out and hiring someone based on merit. So when I look at this decision, this is a decision that is being made not for the best interest of Marvel or building the brand. It is all about promoting identity politics at the expense of Disney and the expense of the Marvel brand and the reputation of the Marvel brand. Because this is a comic, if I were editor-in-chief at Marvel, that would never get greenlit, because I don't want to get the negative controversy with comic fans, nor do I want aspiring comic fans to come in and read a book of such poor quality. Because if you've never worked in comics, you don't get your own book. You get your own book once you have proven you can maintain an audience, once you have proven you have gotten sales, and once you have proven to be a name that everyone knows will be going out here to produce quality stories. This female was just given this as another affirmative action hire, and again, this is not a positive step for diversity. Just because you hired a black woman doesn't mean that she's qualified. And this is another issue I have with this woman getting this Ironheart series, is that you have a grossly unqualified female working on getting her own series over many creators who I know would be great, who could go out here and create something great for Marvel. Because there are many black creators out there, many talented black artists, many talented black writers like myself, who, if we were given the opportunity to have our own series, we would go out here and bring our best work forward. And we would be able to do that because we understand how the medium works. We understand how story paradigms work. We understand how story models work. And we have seasoning and experience in things like science fiction and fantasy, so we understand how to make a story work in a comic book medium, and we understand the opportunity to represent at Marvel not only means something for us, but it means opening the door for other black comic creators. And when a creator like this comes into the industry, not based on merit, it literally closes the door on other creators. Because if she goes out here, this Eve Ewing, who's grossly unqualified, creates this dreadful Ironheart series that I believe she's going to create because she just doesn't have the foundation in fantasy and science fiction, nor does she have the writing background to understand how comics work. What's going to do is it's going to be a passive-aggressive way for your CB Cebulski to sit there and say, oh, we hired a black creator, but they couldn't sell, and because black creators don't sell, we don't want to hire any black creators. So a lot of people look at the diversity on the short term, but I look at the big picture as related to these kind of hires. And these kind of hires really prevent diversity, because when people like this fail and their books fail, what happens is it closes the doors on many talented brothers and sisters out there, many qualified brothers and sisters out there who I know could do a better job than what I saw with this Ironheart character. Because this Ironheart character is just a terrible character, and she just needs to fall through the cracks of the Marvel Universe and fade into obscurity, because the Riri Williams character is just a poorly developed character. There's nothing any writer can really do with this character to make it a better character. The character has problems as related to the foundation of her structure, the foundation of her mission, and the foundation of her development. Brian Michael Bendis really didn't put much effort into Riri Williams, and no creator can do anything if a character has a weak mission, a weak platform, and is already shown to have participated in sociopathic and dysfunctional behaviors in previous books. So when I look at this character and the decision to give her her own series, it's a mind-boggling head-scratcher to me, and it shows me that your CB Cebulski really doesn't have a clue to what he wants to do at Marvel, what direction he wants to set at Marvel, because I look at this character, and this is not a character I would ever think would deserve her own series, because if you have a character who is reviled by many of your audience and cannot generate any sort of sales, that's a character any smart publisher would stop publishing, because they know that their resources are limited, and that in a business where 90% of books fail, they let the books that fail and focus their budgets and their resources on the books that are going to do well. And this decision, again, is just, again, a mind-boggling head-scratcher, because I would never, from a publisher's perspective, go out here and greenlight a character who has absolutely no audience, nor would I go out of my way to hire a grossly unqualified writer to write this character, because that would reflect badly on the brand, and it would really impact the long term of the business. When I look at CB Cebulski's decision to greenlight an Ironheart series, that's one of those decisions that I think Bob Iger needs to take a critical look at, because the more business decisions that your CB Cebulski makes, the more decisions I see for his termination. If you'd like to try some of my SJS Direct publications like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, The Temptation of John Haynes, and the Spinsterella trilogy, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. And if you want to help me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Ooh. Coming this fall from SJS Direct, E-Steam The Sands of Time, It's action, adventure, and romance in ancient Egypt in this fantasy flashback E-Steam series adventure. Pre-order E-Steam: The Sands of Time today on Amazon.com.